Stand or deliver. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Tom's TV show reviews. That light has just died. I do apologise. I never remember which light is it. Right, so most of my lights are dead, but that's fine because we've got good lighting still. So, today we're talking about the completely made up adventures of Dick Turpin. Brand new 6-part sitcom, I'm going to call it a sitcom, on Apple TV Plus. Now this is not like anything you've seen on Apple TV Plus. Trying is a British sitcom, but with not as well known British actors, and Joe Wilkinson's in an episode, but these are well known actors but not as well known in the comedy scene as what's in this. So the completely made up adventure of Dick Turpin stars a whole host of people. So let's name a few. So we've got, start at the very beginning, Noel Fielding plays Dick Turpin. Then, the next most well known is Hugh Bonneville. He's in it. And a lot of people are actually in this. It's a high octane comic programme, and it's absolutely hilarious. Sorry about the quality change, my camera had died. It saved the footage because I stopped recording and then took the battery and put the battery on charge. So, what I was talking about was the misadventures, a completely made up adventures of Dick Turpin. Now this is a fantasy show set in the era that Dick Turpin was in, but with a completely fictional version of our beloved Dick Turpin. Now, for anyone that doesn't know history, Dick Turpin was a highwayman who, well, wasn't great at it towards the end, but did a lot of highwayman shenanigans, is the correct word for it. So, in this series, on a scale from to amazing, I think it's roughly, because of the high standard of incredible programmes on Apple TV Plus, I think this is roughly, I'm going to say, a 9, and you'll find out why in this review. Now it's a 9 purely based off the fact that there was elements in it that I think didn't work. The theme tune was incredible. Thunder, I'm gonna do a bar for you, which is a musical term for a duo segment. Stand on it. I'm gonna do it in a comical voice, and it doesn't sound like I'm actually trying to sing, because I can't actually sing. Stand on the for your money or your life. Oh, 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 oh. Comical. That's me trying to do a comical impression of the theme tune. That makes any sense. Anywho, so I think personally, this show is a 9 out of 10. And to go more in detail in that, because my review of Regency Now was 18 minutes or something. And Regency Now was a drama with a highway person, but more of a highway woman, but more of a more realistic approach to it, even though it had fantastical elements in it. Now, this programme as well had some fantasy elements in it. And what I mean by that is that there was a lot of fantasy in the shows. We had warlocks, we had headless drivers. You had everything that, everything that a fantasy needed to survive, in the sense of, here's some historical elements, but here's some fictional elements as well. See what I mean? So, with this, with the made-up adventures of Dick, with it, I'm not going to read the title every time, am I? No, you're not! Thank you, distance, Tom. But, what I do think, that my favourite, so let's start from ground level, right, with this review. Let's go with, what is my favourite segment in every episode? Because there's one consistent element that appears that I think is amazing. And that is, every single time there's a highway robbery. And why do you reckon I like that? Well, I like that because of the element of that. I really do think that highway robberies in themselves make interesting TV, because you don't really see many highway robberies on TV. You know, like the highwayman genre isn't really there, really, on TV. As in, you don't get much highway-based programming on TV anymore. And you never really did. So I quite like every time they try and try and do some highwaying as the Essex gang. I think it's hilarious. Greg Davis made an appearance in it, and that was hilarious as well. My favourite scene, spoilers for anyone that hasn't seen it, my favourite scene has got to be, I think, within the first episode, where they end up talking about, well, they end up discussing and say, right, we're going to go on 3, 1, 2, and as they're about to go, the coach drives off, because he's trying to become a new, new leader of the gang, and there is one consistent character always writing the stories of Dick Turpin's adventures, which adds more jeopardy, add more intrigue to the show, because then you learn more about the elements of the town, the village. I like how they comically use children as the bar owner, because at that time in history, everyone worked, including children, for a long time before the schools started and people started thinking, yeah, we gives education to children rather than making them work, sending them up mines and all this. That worked really element in a historical sense, because they were trying to keep some historical balance in the show. So I quite liked how they tried to keep the historical elements in it without going too overboard with it, because they were trying to keep it more silly, like Mighty Boosh, because it's Noel Fielding's comic ability, and we're trying to keep it slightly accurate to the time it's portrayed to. Now, Hugh Bonneville is in this show, and he does a fantastic job at playing this sort of he's like a copper type thing, but he's like technically turned into a villain. And I do think that makes the show a little bit more intriguing, because even though we have had Hugh Bonneville play villains, we've never really had him play villain in a comedy programme. And I do think that the elements of silliness of the show works really well. Now, the Essex gang, the gang that Dick Turpin's in, also work really well, because some of them are trying to keep it serious, and then some of them are joining in with the chaos and the madness and the comic ability by trying to join in. And I think that's what helps this series, that the comic ability, the comic timing of the cast in it is perfect and absolutely hilarious, and you can't go wrong with a comic cast. Now, the many things that I think work really well are every time they try and do a highway, Dick Turpin's character and the rest of the series, because I can't say enough good about it. It's a 9 because it's a little bit too silly at certain times, and you sort of lose the overarching story to the whole series, and it means that you don't get as much storytelling out of it as you once thought you would. And I think that sort of doesn't hinder the show in any way. It just sort of helps. Well, it doesn't hinder it. It just means that it's more silly, that it is more factual, and in the sense of you get less of the overarching story, more of what silly antics happen in that episode, which is what a traditional style sitcom normally works out to be. And I think that made this show 10 times better, because you then learnt more about how Noel Fielding reacts in a format that isn't just alternative, it's just alternative comedy, but it's weird in the fact that there is some story element driven into it. I think towards the end of the series, when they get like a posh highwayman involved, I think that doesn't really change the dynamic that much, but doesn't really hinder the dynamic at all either. It just adds a element of, oh yes. And Joe Wilkinson playing the prison officer is perfect because it's his type of oh yeah, and that type of persona that he portrays on 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown works really well, utilising his comic ability. So Noel Fielding acting in this is a 10 out of 10. BAFTA award-winning, deserving, but it'll more likely win an Emmy because it's Apple. And I don't think many Apple TV Plus shows win a BAFTA, but I know a lot of them win Emmys because of Ted Lasso. And I think that when you're trying to beat all the British comedies on Apple TV Plus, there isn't really a lot to go off. So you've got Trying, but Ted Lasso is American primarily. So I think that it doesn't beat Trying as in because Trying is immaculate. But I think this is like the second best to Trying. So the overarching story works really well, and I think that the elements, when you're trying to piece the show together to say this is what the show is, the elements of Noel Fielding's character, the elements of Dick Turpin was a real person, while making him as silly and as made up and as fictional as possible for our own pure entertainment value, because we think this is out of this world, extraordinary, and we think it's funny. And that's what works really well. Trying to keep this show silly, fun, and funny, but whilst at the same time trying to keep it non-fictional, but keeping the elements around it. Because when you think of medieval, a lot of medieval TV programs nowadays, like Merlin, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragons, Kingdom, and then multiple others, right? They're just 4 as an example. They're all fictional. Some things are stoked in and Out Under. Some things are stoked in fact, as in the setting and some of the elements in it are fact, but there's a lot of fiction woven in. And that's what this works really well, because you've got the elements of highwaymen are real, gangs in those towns are real, horse carriages are real, but you've got the mystical elements of warlocks and headless drivers and all this. They're all fictional. And that's what works for this series. So my review in a nutshell, as we come towards the end of this review, the 2 times quality review, I do apologise about that, but hopefully it hasn't affected your enjoyable viewing experience. To round it all off, I think that the show is brilliant. I think the final episode the ending isn't as good as the others, because I don't know, personally, whether or not this will get a second series. And I hope, in a sense, I hope it does. But if it doesn't, you always have to, when you create, for anyone that's knows it, when you create in a series, a TV show, you need to think, how can I continue it for more series if I get recommissioned for another series? But if it ends after one series, how do I have this series end so that if it doesn't get picked up for another series, then that's perfectly fine if they're a good ending? Or how do I end it so that the story can continue but keep it nice and tight, so if the show doesn't come back, it ended well, but if it does come back, then it can continue. I think there's a hard balance to try and juggle anyway. But with this show itself, I think that the ending wasn't as strong as episodes 1 to 5, but I do think episode 6 has a lot going for it. So, there you have it. That is my multi-quality review. We'll be doing more reviews soon. I've got one that's going to be filming this week and uploading on Monday. As in, because it's a UK TV programme and I record it before so it can air at it could upload at 9 AM on the day of that programme releasing. So if you know what's coming out on the channel Dave on the 8th of April, then at 9 PM or at 10 PM. I'll remember that for the review, but if you know which programme I'm talking about, then, well, I've reviewed it before on this channel, like, multiple times. It's now just on its 5th series. So that's coming soon. We'll have some other videos on, well, the next channels will have interest videos tomorrow, because now that the camera's down, I need to put the camera in charge, so I can't film anymore today. Will be on And Now for Something Completely Different and Gogglebox World. So, overall, I'm giving this show a 9 out of 10. It was amazing. It's on Apple TV Plus, and all episodes are available right now. Thank you guys for watching. Time on Tomat. Bye!